If you're wondering how to get shots like this out of your drone, then you're gonna wanna watch this video. What is up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Devin, and today we're gonna be talking about how to get the most out of your drone when it comes to cinematic footage. And more specifically, I'm gonna be talking about how to get that footage out of your DJI Mini 4 Pro. I've been using this drone over the past couple months now, and I've been really enjoying it. And I'm gonna share what I found to be the best settings to get the most quality out of your footage. So with that said, let's jump into it. So the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you're shooting in the highest possible resolution that you can. So depending on your situation and the scene that you're shooting, you want to be in the highest quality. And this one, it's pretty simple. I would just go ahead and default to always shooting in 4K. Now, if you have a drone that shoots 5K or even higher, then you might want to shoot those depending on the frame rate. And that's what we're going to talk about next. So the next thing you want to do is figure out what frame rate that you want. So are you shooting something that's going to be in super slow-mo, whether it's going to be 100 frames per second on the Mini 4 Pro, 60 frames per second, semi-slow-mo, 30 or 24 to have more of that lifelike and real-time feel. Just try to figure out exactly what speed you want it to be in your edit. Now you can always speed it up a little bit more. I wouldn't recommend slowing it down past the frame rate that you're editing to. Figure out what it is that you want your frame rate at, and that's going to determine what your shutter speed should be. And your shutter speed should always be double your frame rate or as close as possible. That allows for a natural looking motion blur to your footage, and it's going to give it a smoother, more professional look that you see in cinematic videos and films. And you might be thinking, wait, I don't see shutter speed control. And that's because you need to switch from the auto mode over to pro mode or manual mode. And this is going to open up the ability to have way more control over things like shutter speed and ISO. And then on some drones, you may have aperture control, but on the Mini 4 Pro, you don't have to worry about that. But what you do have to worry about is ISO. I always recommend keeping your ISO as low as possible. So I keep it between 100 and 400 in most scenarios. So you might be wondering, okay, I've done all those things now, and my image is still way, way too bright. And that is where an ND filter comes in. And what an ND filter does is it kind of acts like a pair of sunglasses for your camera or for your sensor. What it's going to do is it's going to cut down on the amount of light passing through that lens and hitting your sensor, allowing for you to set the correct shutter speed according to your frame rate. Now, this one is actually a polarizer and ND filter, so you can get a little bit more color, a little bit more contrast and range, and get those vibrant colors. You can cut down on reflections. It does really cool things. So if I were to get one, I would recommend getting a polarizing ND filter. All you do is you twist the front of the camera piece here off, and then you just screw this one on, and it just snaps right in. And then you're good to go. And then, like I said, if you have a polarizer or a circular polarizer, you can spin the front element to dial in the amount of polarization that you want. Now, one funny thing that I didn't actually think about until I got this was, well, what happens if I set the polarization exactly how I want it, but then I shoot vertical? You're actually turning the camera, so the polarization is also going to change. So one thing you might want to remember is that if you do that, you might want to pull the drone back in, readjust your polarization, and then send it back up and shoot whatever the opposite way was, whether you're going to shoot horizontal or vertical. All right, so another thing that you're going to want to set manually is your white balance. This is going to control the overall coolness or warmth of your image that you get out of your video. Typically, it's pretty simple with drone shots. I almost always set it to 55 to 5700 Kelvin, which is just kind of like your normal daylight. So closer to 6000, it's going to be a little warmer, and lower, close to 2,000 or 3,000, it's going to be colder looking. And what this does is it keeps it consistent. So if you gimbal up or down or something changes within frame, it doesn't throw your white balance off, and it doesn't change all the colors in your video. So on this drone, like I said, you can shoot in standard picture profile or you can shoot in D-Log. And that just comes down to your preference of where and how you want this footage to end up. But I will say that if you want the most out of this, then you're gonna wanna shoot in D-Log M. And that's gonna give you a really flat picture right out of the drone, and you have a ton of range to color it and tweak it however you want. But it also means that you might get really frustrated if you don't know how to color and tweak the colors exactly how you want. So if you don't do that, and if you don't wanna get into all that, then I would recommend just shooting in the standard picture profile. It looks amazing, and you can still put a LUT or tweak the colors a little bit, enough to get the colors you want out of it, and it still looks really good. All right, so I've gotten some comments in some previous videos with footage from this drone saying that the image looks a little bit overly sharp, and I could agree, in some shots it may. And to fix this, all you have to do is go into the settings. You can actually tone your sharpness down. Now you can go down to -2, and this doesn't mean that it's gonna make it look soft or blurry. It just takes a lot of the edge off of a lot of things, and it actually gives it a much more nice and pleasing look to the image. If you like the image straight out of the drone, then you can leave it. But if you think it's a little overly sharp, then go ahead and turn it down to -1 or -2 to see what you like. You can always add sharpening back in post, but you can't always take it away. So good rule of thumb is if you don't like it, go ahead and just turn it down, and then you can fine tune it later when you're editing. And that pretty much sums up how to get the most out of your drone footage wise. There's a couple tips and tricks actually flying that maybe we'll get into another one, where you can dial in specific settings on your controller. But to sum it up, you really just want to try to fly smoothly. You might have all the best settings in the world, but if you're flying like a madman and changing your direction and your speed and everything, you're gonna make people sick. Let's just be honest. So maybe that'll be saved for a whole other video, but I will just sum it up in this video is be easy on the joysticks, just gentle, slow sweeping movements. And that's gonna get you nice, smooth shots. And you can actually make that even easier by flipping the controller into cine mode, I think they call it, or cinematic mode. And that's gonna force it to make slower, more gradual movements. And one bonus tip for you guys is always record a little bit before your shot and a little bit after you think that your shot's done. Because that's one thing that I've noticed even with myself is, okay, I've got the shot, and I'll stop recording, but then I'll get back to the editing, and I'll wish that I had, just a second more, even if the drone was sitting still, just a second more so you could put a fade onto it or whatever it might be. So film just a little bit more. You'd rather have more than less. So, well, that is it for this video. I hope that you learned something. I hope that you got something valuable out of it. And now hopefully you feel equipped and ready to go create amazing videos with your drone and get the cinematic, professional looking shots that you were hoping to get. If this video helped you at all, please leave it a thumbs up. It really helps out my channel. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you guys want to learn about next. Until next time, I'll see you in another video.